Call this meeting to order. First item is roll call.
Alderman Arnold.
Here.
Alderman Bass.
Here.
Alderman Cleaver.
Here.
Alderman Knox.
Here.
Alderman Mills.
Here.
Alderman Skinner.
Here.
There's a quorum.
Mayor Todd's running just a little bit late, but he'll be here shortly. Next on the item is the invocation by Pastor James Williams from the Valley Community Church, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance by Alderman Knox.
Father, we thank you for the opportunity to be together tonight, Lord. I just pray your blessing upon everything that goes on here. Lord, we pray your blessing upon our leaders. And God, I just thank you for them, their families. God, bless them as well. Lord, give them wisdom as they continue to lead our community. God, make decisions that benefit us, God. And we know that your word says that as we always seek to honor you in all that we do, God, then your blessing will continue to be upon our community, and it's great people. So, Lord, we just thank you for that. Bless everything that goes on tonight. God, we give you praise for it in Jesus' name.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Approval of agenda.
No changes tonight.
No proclamations. Next item is public comment. Does anybody from the public wish to make any comments? We ask that you limit your comments to 3 minutes. Seeing none. Consent agenda.
I move that we approve the consent agenda.
Have a motion. Do you have a second?
Second.
Alderman Knox. Seeing none. Previous business, new business, liquor license. I'm sorry.
Voice vote.
Oh, voice vote.
So all those in favor say
Oh, all those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. None previous business, new business, liquor license for Iron Courtyard.
So this is the first presentation of this new liquor license application for Iron Courtyard. The applicant is here in the audience tonight, and he is one of the owners of the Iron Kettle here in town. There are still some outstanding requirements of this license, and even if at the next meeting we don't have those items, we do not issue licenses until we have everything in hand. Captain Palachuk has reviewed this application. We are still waiting on fingerprints for that before he can finish up his review, but everything else has been looked at. And again, he is here if you have any questions tonight.
Is this an addition to?
It's a separate business.
Okay.
It's the old Greg Street machine shop that we got from the city. So it's gonna be indoor-outdoor cornhole facility with other events, games, and stuff on inside. The bar is just a side thing compared to the games that are being played inside and outside.
Okay. Thank you.
When's your anticipated opening?
February 1st is our goal. We had some issues with Evergy and Spire, we believe that. So it pushes back just a little bit. We're still hoping February 1st is our anticipated opening. So the other side building should be open. The new real estate office and all that should be open right after Christmas. So moving along.
Will food be served at that location?
Yes, it will, like, quick trip roller dog style food. There's not really a kitchen.
Okay.
So there's not a whole lot of space there since we're maximizing the tailgate atmosphere that we're trying to go for there. And so we're constructing a 40 by 40 covered patio in place where that old gravel lot was for indoor and outdoor games. So people can come and play, I guess.
Any other questions? All right, moving on. Presentation, seeing none. Public hearing. Mall at Snybar tax increment financing plan progress.
All right, so those of you that have been around for a little while, you remember that It's actually a statutory requirement for any of our TIF districts that 5 years after they are established, and then every 5 years after that, basically a status report is given at a public hearing that shows kind of the progress of that project. So the one that we're working on or looking at tonight is basically Old Town Marketplace. So where the apartments going in, where Captain's is that whole shopping center. But that is officially the mall at Snybar. So like I said, back in 2002 is when the plan itself was actually submitted, and it was submitted by Ward Development. The board approved that plan in June of that year and selected Ward Development as the developer to carry out that TIF plan. Different from some of the other ones that we have, this project has only one TIF plan, so everything is contained in one plan versus having the multiple ones like we have around the interchange. And then the TIF contract itself was approved in August of 2002. But when you look at what all went into this TIF plan, along the left-hand side there, you see it's considered the projects, and there's the public side of it, and then there's the private side of it. If you take yourself back in time that far, but things like widening of Eagles Parkway, Garden Street, Rock Creek Lane, where we thought maybe it was going to be a traffic signal, utilities, and then the lake improvements are the kind of the pond to the south of that shopping area there. And the private improvements were thought they're going to be 145,000 square feet of retail and office, 43 villa-style residences, a retail building, and now 4 apartment buildings. So that's kind of what was in the plan. And then that middle column, it was the proposed completion dates for those. And then the right side is the actual completion date. So a lot of it was on track when you look at the kind of the public improvement side of it, other than utility or the traffic signal that was determined that was not warranted. The lake improvements, though not done at that time, actually, I think most of those ended up being done a couple of years ago with the Terra Technologies project, which was kind of the mitigation bank and the wetland improvements that were done. And then as far as the private side, to this point, 108,000 square feet of retail and office have been built, 32 of the villa-style residences that you see there along Rock Creek Lane. Some retail, obviously the coffee shop that was built in 2022, and the apartment buildings that, when constructed, would be 154 units. So you've got 3 that are, yep.
Those weren't originally part of the original TIF, right?
No, this was all kind of a change, I guess, of direction in that area. And I should have said the boundaries of this, so basically are Eagles Parkway all the way to Rock Creek Lane, and then over to Garden, basically is that rectangle is all included in this. So this slide shows kind of what was proposed as far as costs when we were looking at the TIF plan, and then what the actual project costs were. So total, originally we were looking at 16 million, and that came down to 15.8 because of the traffic light not being warranted. What has actually been built to this point was basically 6.14. And the other thing I would say with this project versus some other ones, this was all kind of a pay-as-you-go. So the city was not responsible for any of the development. In essence, it wasn't costing us anything. So as the developer went, excuse me, and made these improvements, then he could apply for reimbursement. So when you look at that and say, well, that was, we thought 16 million and it was only 6, it's not that we were necessarily out anything. That was just the project itself was a little bit smaller than what was originally thought. And when you look at that, on that reimbursable project cost, we basically now think about a little over 4 million is what will be reimbursable. Whether they get to that point, we don't know. It is, I would say right now, performing better than it has at any time in the past. Obviously with the new development that you've seen there. So that kind of breaks down, when you look at TIF plans, you have the pilots and you have the EATs. And the pilots is payment in lieu of taxes. So that's where, when you start that process, you kind of have the baseline for what property tax is, and then the amount that's over that after construction and the project goes. is that payment, I guess. That's the incentive there. The EATS is economic activity, so that's essentially the sales tax. So that's the cash registers rolling. But when you look at what was proposed TIF revenue, we're looking at almost $21 million. Actual TIF revenue has been 6.3. And then you can see the breakdown of the pilots and the EATS below that. But as far as assessed valuation, what was proposed was 7.35. Where we were at was 2.5. Now that was through year 20 of the TIF. Obviously, things are still being constructed, and that could change going forward. But as of the point of this report, that's where we currently are. So with that, obviously it's been anticipated that the developer, whether it's through proceeds or private loans or equity, will fund all of the redevelopment project costs. As I said, this was simply a pay-as-you-go project, so it was not that the city was out anything. This was all privately funded. And it's anticipated TIF revenues generated by the completed redevelopment project will be sufficient to pay those reimbursable project costs. And with that, obviously we're on the tail end of this, but it's obviously not anticipated that there are any obligations or that obligations will be issued to finance any of those reimbursable project costs. One thing I would say is that year 20, this was, I believe, a 23-year plan, so we are at the very tail end of it. So once we get to that point, it rolls off and the TIF side of it goes away, and then it becomes just a normal, essentially tax generating development like any other would be.
I was wondering that when I saw the amended budget deal, they saw the $500,000 when came in and went to them this past year. So I think it's about time we get to the end of that 23 years. So that
Yeah, so we do, with any of those projects, there's the reimbursements that they get based off of the pilots and the EATS. But yeah, like I said, it's performing better now than it has at any time in the past. I mean, it's fairly obvious. I think if you go by there's just more activity from a building standpoint and just retail side of it. But that was the 5-year report. Being that there are only a couple years left, we will not see that 5-year mark again. So this will be the last status update for the mall at Snybar. So if you had any questions, I'd be happy to answer. Like I said, it is a public hearing too, but that was it for the staff report.
Questions? Seeing no questions?
It is a public hearing, so there can be comment from the public.
Does anybody in the public have any comments or like to speak? Seeing none, move on to resolutions.
President, if you would go ahead and close the public hearing on that matter.
Okay, we'll close the public hearing. Now we'll move on to resolutions. Next item is consider for resolution is number R22-66, which is a resolution by the Board of Aldermen of the City of Green Valley authorizing the write-off of doubtful utility account balances.
Mayor, I move that we accept resolution 22-66.
Do I have a second?
A second.
Alderman Skinner. Now what? We have a motion. Is there a second? Is there a discussion on this motion?
Yep. So what you have before you, this is an activity that we go through every year. But what we are looking at writing off this year goes back to 2018. So unfortunately, we do. There are unpaid utility balances that we just don't really have a way of getting. And the problem with that is it kind of throws off essentially the balance sheets. So we go back a few years and after trying to get those recouped, if we get to that point where we just don't think it's feasible anymore, we do come to the board and ask for those to be written off. And as I said, this was from 2018.
What's the amount this year?
16,000 and some change. if I'm
Yeah.
right.
Is that more opposed to what's kind of been in the past, or?
Last year it was $17,230. So it's generally been around that $15,000 to $20,000 over the last several years.
And is this mainly commercial, or is it residential, or?
I believe the majority of the accounts are residential. I'd have to go through and give a breakdown.
Fine,
Yeah.
Do these go to creditors?
Go ahead.
Yeah, so in the past, we have tried to use a collection agency. I believe in a couple of years ago, the collection agency actually dropped us because the amount that they would get is so low, it wasn't really worth their time. I do know we have basically our staff tries to collect on some of the delinquent bills when they have time. And recently have been successful with some of that. I think that's similar to what some other cities do. There isn't a whole lot of, it's not like some of the more lucrative debt like medical or credit card, I think, where they can go after you and have higher balances. So we typically try to do that internally and haven't had, I believe this might have been one of the, I think up to 2020, we had debt that we would send to the collection agencies, but again, we didn't receive much, if anything, from that process.
Is the majority of this from rental property or personally owned property?
I'd have to do an analysis of that. We just have a year-by-year amount within the water and sewer utility software. So to give a more thorough answer, I'd have to take a look at that.
Are these all water and sewer?
Yes.
Any other questions?
Occasionally, we will have some people that move back into the city that might be, that might have had some of their previous balances sent to bad debt. If that does occur, then we take it out of the bad debt and collect at that time. That happens occasionally, but it's just something we do try to do.
Hearing no further discussion, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 All opposed, same sign. Next item is consideration resolution number R 22-67, which is a resolution by the Board of Aldermen by the City of Green Valley establishing the need to amend the 2022 budget.
I move that we approve resolution number R 22-67.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Knox. Is there any discussion on the motion?
Yep, Mayor and Board of Aldermen, this is the resolution that basically allows us to do the ordinance further down in the agenda. But basically, the point of this is at the end of the year, this gives us a more accurate reflection of where we're at for expenses and revenues for the calendar year versus the approved budget at the start of the year. So what you're approving right now is just the resolution to allow you to do the ordinance later.
Questions? Hearing no further discussion, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Ordinances?
The first one is bill number B 22-34. This is an ordinance amending the budget of the City of Green Valley, Missouri for the fiscal year 2022.
I move that we accept the first reading of bill number B 22-34. Bring it back for a second reading. Next item in the second reading. No, I move that we accept the second reading of bill number B 22-34.
Second.
Yeah.
Oh,
Second first.
Second.
Mr.
Okay.
Knox,
All right, perfect.
getting ahead of myself.
No discussion.
Any discussion?
Yep, so Mayor and members of the board, this is that ordinance that I was talking about. So this is the activity we go through every year at the last meeting, 99% of the time. Like I said, and it basically just goes through each fund and shows kind of where we're actually at this point. There are things that come up through the year that maybe it's moved from, it could be all general fund, but it's moved from one to the other. And obviously, we're making projections on revenue and expenses when we approve the budget at the beginning of the year. So this is that time Stephen goes through and kind of puts together what we think or where we think we'll be at the end of the year for expenses and revenues.
Dale?
Just noticed that we had a significant surpluses in vet service and some of the TIFs, NIDs, and SIDs over here. Is that earmarked to stay, to go toward those debt service, or does it go into a different fund, or how is that money handled?
The debt service reserve, if there's a surplus, it goes into just the reserve account that is also used to determine the debt service levy when we set that in September or August, depending upon when that occurs. We will be spending some of that balance down with the general obligation debt that we issued this year. The TIF projects are, except for Project 2, the city is the developer on Project 1, 3, and 4. So those are building the fund balances to fund the projects that were initially done, or the general obligation authority that we use for the interchange project instead of the downtown improvements. We do have the engineering budgeted for one of those projects for this year. So as we have seen some of the development occur around the interchange, those balances are going up and are going to allow us to do some of those projects that we had initially planned all along.
Down on Front Street.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I believe Front Street is the one that is scheduled for engineering.
Yep. And so I guess what you take, or what we should take from that at the end, is that the interchange project itself is functioning well and is starting. This is that plan, many years ago, is kind of finally coming to fruition and looking positive going forward.
Yes.
Thank you.
Further discussion? That's a roll call.
This one's voice.
Oh, voice. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign.
Okay, this is the second reading of Bill number B22-34, an ordinance amending the budget of the City of Green Valley, Missouri, year 2022.
I move that we accept the second reading of bill number B22-34 and approve it as its ordinance number 2406. We have a motion? Second. Alderman Hawks. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing no further discussion, it's roll call.
Alderman Arnold,
Yes.
Alderman Bass,
Yes.
Alderman Cleaver,
Yes.
Alderman Knox,
Yes.
Alderman Mills,
Yes.
Skinner.
Yes.
That's it.
All right. Up next, any city attorney report?
Mr. President, members of the board, staff. We've got just a couple things. We've been working through the various ordinance changes that are necessary. Effective date of the recreational marijuana becoming effective a week or so ago. So working those through. We're in our new building, kind of finally getting settled in there. Obviously with the holidays coming, I think you guys also have a change schedule. Our office will be closed on the Friday and the Monday. Christmas falls on a weekend, and so does New Year's. So we're going to be closed those Fridays and Mondays. Kind of, I think you guys are the same, so just going to report that. That's all I've got.
Thank you. City and staff report?
From community development, we had a written report and just had a couple of other things. I sent an email out, but just want to remind the staff holiday party is this Friday from noon to 2 and City Hall offices will be shut down at noon that day. And then kind of another update from the police chief search. So the recruiters are going through that assessment process tomorrow, Wednesday, and Thursday. So hopefully we'll have something to report back in the near future on that. And I guess following up, Mr. Lauber, so if you remember the way our holidays work, we are off that Friday and Monday for Christmas. We are not off the Friday of New Year's Eve. We're just off the Monday after New Year's. That was it.
Is the party gonna be at,
In here.
in here?
Mhm.
In case any of us wanna drop in and say, hey.
Yep.
Alderman reports, comments? Alderman Arnold?
I had a person question me about the weed situation, and it was based off because of colleges, because of federal money, they're allowed to continue to make the access of that illegal on their premises or whatever. And their question to me was, is could the city go to prohibition in conflict with what the amendment did?
So the constitutional amendment that was approved does allow cities to opt out of having to allow recreational marijuana consumption and possession. However, the way it is set up, that may only be done by an election of the people, and that election must occur during a presidential election, and it requires a supermajority vote to do that. So with the constitutional provision becoming effective on December 6th, it will be November of 2024 before a city could actually put the matter on the ballot to do an opt-out. So the answer is yes, you can, but you'll have to wait for almost 2 years.
Okay, all righty. Also, I attended the Eastern Jackson County Betterment Council meeting on the 9th, over at the Adams Point deal, and got to sit next door to Congressman Cleaver. Had a nice conversation with him while we were there. I got to speak to some of the local representatives about things that were coming down for the coming year, and it was a good event. And I'd urge other aldermen, if you're available, to go to those type of events to try and to attend. So it's very informative, and my wife asked me to bring up that our Green Valley cheerleaders, for the 19th time, got state recognition, state champions. So it's kind of a dynasty that got going there. So mention them on the record. Congratulations.
Alderman Mills?
Nothing at this time.
Alderman Bass?
Nothing, excuse me, nothing at this time.
Alderman Skinner?
Nothing at this time.
Alderman Knox?
Yes, where are we on our electric sign?
Waiting for the new budget year.
Yeah, that's in for the 2023 budget.
Right, but I mean, are we already seeking bids on it or anything?
I don't believe we've gotten any more at this point. Honestly, if we got bids right now, it's delayed before you can even get it just because of winter. They're not probably going to install the sign and do that work over winter, but after we get into the first of the year, we'll go through and try to get additional bids, but get that finalized and move forward.
Okay, I just wondered what kind of cost we were actually looking at.
Maybe things will go down.
That's all I have.
I have nothing. Mayor's here. Mayor, did you have anything that you wanted to say? Okay. We have a need for an executive session?
We do under 1, legal, 3, personnel, and 13, performance ratings.
Let's see. We're in the executive session.
So moved.
Alderman Bass. Second.
Second.
Skinner.
Roll
Roll call vote?
Alderman Arnold?
Yes.
Alderman Bass?
Yes.
Alderman Cleaver?
Yes.
Alderman Knox?
Yes.
Alderman Mills?
Yes.
Alderman Skinner?
Yes.